Okay, so now I'm ready to quilt this eccentric star block. And what I'm going to be doing is, if you've been watching some of the other videos that I've done in this series, I'm going to be doing these smoky swirls in the background in the gray, the light gray areas. And then in the teal and the dark turquoise areas, I'm going to be doing a little bit of ruler work and some free motion quilting. So I went ahead and did some reference marking on these, just so it would be a little bit easier for me once I get started, so that I'm not having to measure everything. These lines are going to be a 1/2 inch apart. And then I went ahead and drew my central pebble in these boomerang shapes so that I know that they're centered and everything is spaced out really nicely. So let's go ahead and get started quilting this awesome block. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start out by stabilizing my block. So I'm going to bring my bobbin thread up to the top, and I'm going to leave enough thread on the top and bottom so that I can easily tie off and bury my threads once I get done with this. And then I'll be using a Janome ditch ruler to help me with my ruler work and to help me keep things nice and straight. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stitch up this line, and then I'm going to do a few of my smoky swirls after I stabilize this little gray triangle before I start my free motion. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stitch over this way. I'm going to have to do a little bit of backtracking there to get where I want to be. So I'm going to go ahead and do this straight line just so that I can finish my free motion right here. And then I have one little portion back behind my needle bar that I need to come do, but I'm going to go ahead and stitch some more straight lines to get me to that point, so I'm not doing a lot of unnecessary backtracking. Okay, finish that. There we go. Now I can proceed with my straight line quilting. I love these, you know, very simply spaced 1/2 inch lines. There's nothing fancy about these, but they are so just, I don't know, there's something sophisticated about them, and I really love just the simple way that it makes this block look. It really gives it a nice look without being overly fussy too, so that's another added plus. Okay, you can see that, let me move my needle bar so you can actually see what I'm talking about. So you can see that a lot of the markings that I did, they're very, very faint. So I'm just gonna come over here and redo. I like to go ahead and mark my central pebble so that I know it's nice and centered so that it doesn't fall not in the middle and give the block kind of a weird look. And I'm just kind of eyeballing these because I don't really need those. I need to know the spacing of these so that everything looks nice and even. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start filling in these pebbles. So the main thing to do remember whenever you're doing these pebbles is I'm always kind of looking ahead of where I am and not right where I'm stitching. And I'm watching my boundary lines. So these are my upper and lower boundary lines, and I wanna make sure that my stitching stays in between these two lines. All right, let's go. And I will say that the slower I do my pebbles, sometimes the sloppier they look, unfortunately, but it is what it is, right? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and come up here. And do my little boomerang lines that are also nice and simple. There's nothing overly fancy about these. They just give a really good look. Okay, now to keep from having to backstitch over a bunch of stuff, I'm going to go ahead and free motion quilt in this square. So like I said in my previous video, if you haven't watched that, I really lean very heavily on my rulers whenever I'm traveling in a diagonal line because it's hard for me to maintain a true straight line. And so I always kind of make sure that I have a ruler handy to guide me. It's easy for me to ballpark do a straight horizontal or vertical line, but diagonal I really have a hard time with. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and instead of tracing along this line, I'm gonna go ahead and do my inner boomerang because then if I do this, I'm gonna have to backtrack over here and I don't wanna do that. So let's go ahead, knock this little guy out. Okay, and now I'm ready to do my little pebbles. I'm gonna go ahead and retrace these just a little bit because I can barely see them, so I'm sure that on the video you can really barely see them. So here we go. We've got a little guide set up, and I'm not gonna retrace, you know, exactly perfect on these. but it's just kind of a visual guide to help me keep my spacing correct, okay? And again, I'm watching my boundaries the whole time. So I'm watching this lower line and my upper boundary. All right, now I'm ready to go ahead and do my smoky swirls right here. Right. So now I'm going to go ahead and trace over this line. Awesome. Okay, and then I'm going to come up here. And I'm going to go ahead and do my straight lines first. And then I'll come back and do my smoky swirls. So I don't know if you can see there, you know, very faintly I've marked these lines. I'm not going to go back over them because I don't really need a detailed, you know, reference point for these, as long as I can kind of faintly see that little ghost outline. I can put my ruler right where I need it to be. And so you can see that I have my ruler situated kind of below my hopping foot and to the right. I am uncomfortable whenever I hold it behind and to the left. And so I try to keep my ruler, you know, in a position where I'm the most comfortable holding it, because then I'm not as likely to make mistakes or have the ruler slip out of my hand. So I'm not saying that that's the same position for you to find that level of comfort, but I do recommend, you know, that you kind of play around with ruler position and what you feel the most comfortable with. Now I kind of can't see my lines real good here, so I'm gonna just, here we go. Okay, now I'm gonna do my smoky swirls. There. Retrace this line a little bit. A little echo to fill that space. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and fill in my boomerang over here to the right. And then again, I'm going to retrace over these little pebbles just so I can see my guides a little bit better. Awesome. Okay, and then I'm going to do my smoky swirls right here. Okay. Same thing in this gray area. And I'm going to go ahead and stitch in this line. You can't see the needle bar is kind of blocking the view, but I'm going to stitch up this line stitch in the ditch between these two colored fabrics before I finish my free motion here. Okay, now I'm going to come down here and do my ruler work. Just very simple straight lines that are spaced a 1/2 inch apart. You know, it's not a whole lot of work, not a whole lot of marking ahead of time, but it does give kind of a big impact. You know, the most return on your investment, I feel like. Okay, now I'm gonna come down here. And I'm just gonna do enough free motion to get me over here so that I can stitch in the ditch on this line before I finish my free motion, okay? Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and quilt my little boomerang here. And then I'm going to remark my little circles. All right. Let's see, I'm going to stitch in the ditch right here. And then down this way. Go ahead and do my free motion. All right, and then all I have to do now are my straight lines here, and I am done with this block. I kind of can't see my line, so I'm gonna go ahead and go over my reference points. There we go. And that is it. I'm done. So I'm gonna come over here. I always like to end on the outside of a block. And so I'm gonna do just a couple stitches in place, and then I'm gonna clip my threads so that I have plenty to come back and bury my threads if I wanna do that. Some people don't like to bury their threads. It's personal preference, but I like to make sure that mine are nice and secure. So I'm gonna bury these once I'm done. All right, so we've got this block done. I think it looks really nice. I love these little simple ruler work lines here, and the straight lines that I quilted that are just a 1/2 inch apart. I think it offsets the block really nicely, and then these simple pebbles inside these boomerang shapes. So this eccentric star block is done, and we're ready to move on to the next one.